Welcome to Dungeon Academics. My name is Thomas and I will be your instructor. This is another of my quick videos. No editing, no graphics, no background, because my computer has died. But I still enjoy talking about the games that I love, so here we are. One of the things of Dungeons & Dragons that I do not like is that at its heart, it is a game of resource attrition. When it was designed as a dungeon crawler, the idea of a party taking turns going through and exploring a dungeon and defeating enemies with a reward of treasure was a perfectly fine piece of gameplay. But over the years, the way people play Dungeons & Dragons has changed significantly. It is now a game of heroic storytelling, and the grind of resource attrition is often at odds with the way people play the game. With Dungeons & Dragons, you are at your most powerful shortly after breakfast, which, in fairness, is probably the same about how I feel in real life, but Dungeons & Dragons is not meant to be a game about real life. All your abilities reset on a long rest. You get all your hit points back, you get all your spell slots back, all your limited use abilities go back to full charge, and with a few exceptions, all negative statuses are removed. You are at your most potent first thing in the morning, and as the day progresses, every ability degrades somewhat. There are some that can be recharged at a short rest, and the difference between classes on those that can recharge at a short rest and those that can't, again, is one of the weaknesses of the game. But in general, as the game goes through the day, you get less potent. Should games masters therefore put the most challenging encounters at the start of the day when characters are at their most powerful? Or should they put them at the end of the day when characters have the fewest resources to spend? Either way, I don't think this is a very satisfying type of gameplay. There is a big degree of FOMO, fear of missing out, with Dungeons & Dragons. Whenever you come to an encounter, you are thinking, should I use this ability which is powerful and cool, or should I save it for later on when I feel that I might be in more peril, not knowing if there is even going to be a later on. How many times have you got through the end of the day with your highest level spell slot unused because you were saving it in case you needed a revivify or a counterspell at a pivotal moment? How many times have you regretted not doing something cool because you were worried about saving resources for later on? Whilst forward planning is an important part of the game, I think this focus on resource attrition and saving resources is a negative aspect of the game. Of course, there are ways you could plan around this without necessarily changing the basis of the game. If you rewarded players' experience based on how many spell slots or abilities or hit points they had left at the end of the game, this would really encourage players to think more about the balance. There is now a reward for not using these resources, apart from the, well, I made it through the day. This itself is a problem. We are now metagaming a game. In order to improve Dungeons & Dragons, we are metagaming how we play it in order to get a reward at the end of the day. I don't like that. Whilst it is an acceptable way to play, it could even be a fun way to play, I don't think that is a positive solution to this problem. Dungeons & Dragons has no abilities that get more powerful as the day progresses, and I think that's a missed opportunity. Many other games have awesome points, obviously not called that, but things that you collect during the day that unlock your abilities. By doing certain things, you get to use your abilities later on. I believe this was more of a feature in 4th edition. I don't have much experience with that, but other roleplay games certainly do. Things like Scion or Adventure, both of which are great games that I love playing, allow you to collect these points to activate your best abilities. What if Dungeons and Dragons had a system like that? If there was a standard way of unlocking some sort of class-based resource, and a way for each class to unlock this resource. For sorcerers, if they cast magic, they get empowered. On the other hand, wizards need the results. Their expertise is on the correct application of magic. So every time a wizard hit with a spell or did damage or caused an effect with one of their spells, they got some power back. How about a barbarian that gets more powerful the more damage it takes? How about a rogue who unlocks extra abilities or more potent versions of those abilities by being sneaky, by attacking characters that are unaware that they are even there? How about the ranger who can track their quarry and power up their abilities? Every time they gain sight, they successfully track it and they manage to mark their target. I think this would be a great way to play the game, that each class had some class resource that it collected, and each subclass gave you a different way of collecting and spending that resource as well. This would also benefit the players because they are powering themselves up as the day goes on. Of course, they are losing spell slots, they are losing hit points, so they are losing power through the day, but they're also gaining power through the day. And the idea of taking a long rest to get something back means they also lose something. Right now, in every party, there is that debate of, should we take a rest? The wizard, the sorcerer, the bard, low on spell slots, they always want to take a long rest to get them back. But the fighter, the monk, the warlock, they're like, short rest, we'll be fine, let's keep going. This conflict between players is not necessarily a fun part of the game. But when the conflict is within each player themselves, yes, I'm low on hit points, yes, I'm low on spell slots, but my sorcery points are through the roof right now, or I am burning with the divine favour of my god. Or for the barbarian, like, my rage has empowered me so my wounds don't matter. This debate for each player now is more gamey. It's a better part of the game. So by changing the essence of Dungeons and Dragons away from a game of resource attrition to a game of heroic fantasy, again, which is how I think most people want to play it, that would be a good thing. Changing the rules of the game to reflect how people want to play it, rather than how it was designed to be played 50 years ago, can only be good for the game. What are your thoughts on that? Would you like to see a new version of Dungeons and Dragons where there is some way of characters to become more powerful as the day goes on, even as they're losing hit points and spell slots and other abilities? Would that make the game more fun for you? And are there good examples of this in games that you have played? Thank you for listening. I really look forward to reading your feedback, and please enjoy your next game, whatever it may be.